Yeah, welcome back to Guitars and Coffee. Um, it's been a long time. I haven't been making videos. Yeah, but now I am making a video. So finally, there will be mostly talking, and I'm making the video, you know, trying to make it mostly in one take here. There will be some editing, but yeah. Um, Today I will be going through the setup that I use for most my playing, um, and yeah, I will be explaining what I do and why, and also wet dry wet is the best solution most of the times. By the way, yeah, and I will show you why. But most of the time, my guitar rig is my Bogner Ecstasy 3534 with a 1x12 cabinet, my wireless system, a volume pedal, and a boost in the effects loop to get more volume when I have solos. And I use a Universal Audio Delverb for delays and reverb, and that's it. That's what I mainly use most of the time. But I've made uh, my rig kind of modular, so I can easily add components to suit the gig or situation, or if I want to bother with carrying more gear. So, I'm almost spilling my coffee. So I will go through that, and I will show you how I use wet dry wet with my audio interface in live settings. Yeah, so yeah, some coffee is needed. This will probably be a long video. Um, so for those of you who are not interested in this kind of guitar talks, then this video is probably not for you. Okay, my main guitar is this Tyler. It's the body shape is a Studio Elite, but I think that the Studio Elite is really when you have the full setup with the preamp and everything. This is not. I think this is closer to maybe the Landau signature at one point, but I'm not sure. It's called the Burning Water. That's what it says in the um, little sheet that followed the guitar. So it's just James Tyler, Burning Water. It's got an ash body. I've gone through this a little bit before, but ash body, one piece maple neck. As far as I know, yeah. It's not a fretboard. No, one piece maple neck. Um, it's got the I don't know what I don't know the three letters in front. JTS maybe JTS 5500 single coils, and the secret humbucker. Um, volume tone five way switch. Hip shot tuners. I love the hip shot tuners. In the process of putting it on all my guitars, um, and the Goto 510 trem system or vibrato system with this special block to eliminate reduce the contact points and wear and tear, and yeah, really love this bridge. And I've got this is my main guitar, what I use most of the time, and sometimes I use my Axis Music Man Axis, and also have a Music Man Albert Lee that I use quite a lot now. After it got hip shot tuners, it actually got became a better guitar, less hassle. So those are the three guitars I use the most. But this one is my main guitar, and I also use my Strandberg a little bit, quite a lot when at least when I practice. Um, I love the guitar, but it's 24 frets, and I really don't like what the 24 fret does to the neck pickup position. So I mostly just use it with the bridge pickup. I don't like the neck pickup sound on a 24 fret guitar anyway. But yeah, and most of the time I use the Shure wireless system. Um, I'm kind of it's an important thing for me to keep my entire signal chain or audio path analog. But I just like to use the wireless. It's so yeah, I do. Um, um, it is digital. So yeah, but the rest is analog. But I like the wireless. I just noticed that I have some notification going on my. Yeah. So, but the wireless, I use that on my small board that I is kind of my main rig that I use the most of the time, and I also have the wireless on this bigger board that is kind of the when I need all the extra, I need a compressor, I need maybe an Octafus and stuff like that, then I will use the bigger board. It's a Pedal Train Classic 3. I will also make a, you will have, I will go through, so show you everything. So, and I can start with that now, actually. Well, film it with this. Let's see. For some reason, I didn't have it. So, we go into the wireless on the top right corner there. And from that, it goes into the gig rig G3. I will be putting up, I have this loop or a box that adds a kind of a audition loop that I will use for my wah pedal, so I can just connect the wah pedal to the board and it will be in line with the rest of the audio. So yeah, it's not on the board right now, but it goes to the G3, and all the pedals that you see here on the board is connected in. They've got a loop on the G3. I use the volume pedal in front of the amplifier and in front of drives because I like to use that to control my gain level. So I do that all the time. My foot is kind of always on the volume pedal. And I also use the volume control on my guitar. It's a different kind of flavor of gain control, yeah. Especially with the Tyler that has treble bleed. So yeah. And you see, I have the Octavio MXR Octavio. Only use the octave part of it, and I put output level on max and fuzz at a minimum, and it's just the octave, and I use it into the drives, and that is actually placed before the volume pedal, and also the Kali 76 is also placed before the volume pedal in most cases. But since I can reorder the pedals in within the G3, I sometimes have the Kali 76 later in the chain. I use the Duke of Tone for to get some hair on my clean tones. I can get hair on the clean channel on my Ecstasy, of course, without the Duke of Tone, but I like to have a proper clean option available. I use that for when I play more funky rhythm things and stuff like that. So I need a clean. I've got the Jam Tremolo, Jam Pedals Tremolo, Harmonious Monk. It's got a great harmonic tremolo, but I mainly use the normal tremolo on it. And I have the Neunauber, I don't know how you pronounce it, but Inspire, and the second version. It's a tri-stereo chorus. And I actually set it up to have two tri-stereo choruses in series. And it's connected in mono. I will explain that later. Also, the Cloudburst I use for swells. You heard it in what I played earlier here. Also in mono. And I've got the Delverb for simple delay and simple reverb, also in mono. And that is controlled via MIDI. That is what the box, little box in the middle on top there is. It's making it possible for me to control the Delverb via MIDI. And I've got this Voodoo Lab control switcher to control the amp. I've got the Gigrig Humdinger to eliminate hum on the amplifier because it's in the loop of the G3. The preamp is in the loop, so I need something to lift ground if needed. And I also have this MXR custom audio buffer, which I use as it's my volume boost for solos. So it's in the loop of the G3 after the preamp, just to turn up the volume. So yeah, all the modulation and time-based effects are in the loop of the amplifier or behind the preamp. And also the MXR buffer is behind the preamp. Everything else is in front of the preamp. So that is the board. Um, and you can see I have some presets made ready um, on the G3. The bottom row here is everything that has to do with gain and different flavors of gain. Everything on the top row here is post effects, modulation, time-based things, and I have a tap tempo on the left-hand bottom row and a solo boost on the left-hand top row. Yeah, that's the board. Yeah, a little bit more. And I also got this patch bay to connect it to the amp, and I made this little snake that goes back and behind the. Oh, let me not destroy my guitar here. And this is my amplifier, main amplifier. I got two of those, and I will come back to that as well. Ecstasy 3534 35 watt version. And the power amplifier is actually a Marshall H008 valve state. I've just painted it and switched out the knobs just to make it fit the, yeah, what do you call it? I like when things look good. So it looks better like this. My oversized Bogner 212. And by the way, these cabinets on the side, those are some cheap cabinets I bought from Gear for Music. They've got vintage 30 in them. They sound really good, actually. I used to have the Mesa Boogie mini rectifier cabinets, also with the vintage 30, and these cabinets here sound much better. They just sound fuller, bigger, even though they are actually smaller. And I use this Apollo Twin X quad quad processor for everything post effects, and that is connected not in the effects loop of the Ecstasy, but there is a line out on the Ecstasy. So the line out is going to the input of the Apollo, and the Apollo is going into the power amplifier that is connected to those two speakers. So my entire single chain, apart from my wireless, is analog. The amplifier is not colored at all by the audio interface. So everything wet is, yeah, everything dry is not affected by what's happening in the audio interface. There is, of course, I will go more into detail about how this works and why. And then it is connected to, there is also the MIDI cable coming from the amplifier into this Boss or Roland converter and into my Mac laptop. And I will just open that. And there is Live Professor with my post effect setups or stereo effects setups. So, yeah. I'm back. So that is the rig. And I don't always use wet dry wet, but the thing is, I've been talking to friends of mine that are studio engineers around, in the live studio engineers mostly. Uh, some of them are working locally only, and some of them have been working all over the country and also been on quite a few international tours, as I understand. Um, and when I'm talking to them, they seem to prefer a proper wet, dry, wet setup from guitarists. Um, because when you have a wet, dry, wet setup, a true wet, dry, wet, where you're not running any dry signal in your stereo speakers. You only have dry in the center speaker. Um, then you have a simple mono dry guitar signal that they can easily control, easily EQ, um, and you won't get any phase issues because what you're running in the stereo speakers are just delays and reverbs, and I will come back to modulation and stuff like that, but also that. So you don't have to worry about phase issues between the dry signal and the stereo speakers. And that is also why you could use an audio interface easily. I'm using the Apollo and the MacBook Air. And the Apollo, of course, it's a very good audio interface. So latency is not a very big issue. You can easily have a setup where you can play with it and have a good um, feel on your strings. But of course, it would still be out of phase with the center speaker if you had a dry signal through, um, because there will be some latency. Um, but then if you add chorus, for instance, like I'm using I can show you, let you have some sounds again. With okay, this is my clean tone, and if I add the chorus setting, I won't get into phase issues because it's supposed to be delayed. So So it's no problem doing that. If I put in the dry signal, there will be a problem. But you can also use, I don't have any pitch detune in my setup, but still, if you use that, normally you will set that up with a delay on the pitch signal. So, okay, you might have some delay in your audio interface, so you just use less delay on the pitch effect. So no issues with phase at all. You get the perfectly direct dry signal in your center, and you just add the effects. So for a sound engineer, this is really good. You can have your mix on stage, whatever you like. And the way I set it up in my recording session right now is that I set the level for my dry signal into the Neve preamps that I use, the plugins in the Universal Audio plugins. I set that, and then I just copy those settings to the left and right signal. So everything is gained exactly the same. So then what you are, and I use the same microphone. So what you give to the audio engineer is the best representation of what you have on stage. And a good experienced audio engineer will most likely come up on stage, listen to what you got going on, and try to get something like that out. But of course, sometimes maybe we have too much reverb or delays on stage in our tone, and it's not maybe not the best for the total mix. So he can make some adjustments to that. So the engineers that I've talked to, the audio engineers, the sound engineers, English, they prefer this. And it's also when you have, like on bigger stages, where if you're on the right side of the venue, you will only get the right side of the sound, and so on. But you still have the center sound. The dry sound is perfect. It's the same on both sides, and also the most of the engineers I've talked to, even though they mostly run mono, maybe on a bigger stage, they will either use front fills and make several stereo zones, or at least, like they say, reverbs in mono. That's just not good. It just doesn't sound good. You have to use reverbs in stereo. But it might not the most important thing for the stereo image on the sides. But anyway, I hope you understand what I'm saying in English here. It's yeah, it's not my first language. So with a wet dry wet like this, you kind of get the best of both worlds. In one of my bands, most of the time, as I said, I play mono. But in one of my bands, I have made myself dependent on a couple of effects that I just need to have for some of the songs to work. One of the things is a filter delay that I'm using on one of the songs, and it's there are two delays, dotted eighths and quarter notes, and I have kind of a wah-wah effect on each of the delays post delay that are automated, and they are in different tempo, different depths, and making this very sound that is really moving. And also the delays are panned, so they are panning slowly and a sine curve from side to side independently in different tempos. So sometimes they are on the same side, and then one of them move over, and it's going back and forth. I don't have it set up so I can show you now, but I've made myself dependent on that effect. So when I play with that band, I need at least stereo. Uh, but with Wet Dry Wet, I can run the whole show in mono, and I can turn on the stereo for that effect only. If they don't like, if the sound engineer would prefer me going mono, because the rest of the songs won't suffer from me playing mono, but that song really needs a stereo. So that is a huge benefit, I think, of running Wet Dry Wet, because if you're running stereo, you are kind of locked to stereo, and you have to make sure that both amps are in phase and stuff. And it's not a really a big problem. You can run dual mono in a stereo setup. So yeah, you, you can get around it, of course. Um, and you can also combine. Another benefit, I think, is combining the kind of vintage tones with the modern tones. The easy back and forth between mono, stereo, and all that. Also, if you're using pitch, sorry, like I'm not using pitch detune. I could use that for this as well, but if I'm running, there will be some noise now. But if I'm running the lead channel, one guitar, now I have stereo delays on. I haven't made a setup with mono delays right now. But when I turn on the chorus, everything of course gets bigger, and it really gets bigger because it goes from being a mono signal source to a chorus with suddenly three sources. Some simple uh, examples, yeah. So you probably understand that I haven't scripted this video at all. That's, yeah. I'm having fun with my guitar. Yeah. I need to drink some coffee while it's still hot. Oh, too late. Um, so, but with this setup, what I can easily do when I run this setup with, if I'm running Wet Dry Wet, I can use the audio interface, as I said, for this. Oh, my point. I was going back to the. Sorry, I'm jumping back and forth here. But the thing is, I'm using the Apollo. An expensive audio interface, but you really don't need an expensive audio interface, and that is the key here, because running Wet Dry Wet is not expensive. You don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. This Marshall Valve State power amp, they are super cheap. And to my knowledge, they are all working. I have never come across a Valve State that haven't been working. So you can get them really cheap. And you don't need an audio interface that costs a lot of money. You can manage with a USB 2 audio interface. I'm using Thunderbolt, but you can manage with a simple USB 2 um, audio interface. A friend of mine, he got, oh, it sounds so good. He's got this PCM 70, Lexicon PCM 70. I got a couple of friends who has that, but um, he's one of the friends that is a sound engineer, and he just bought the Mesa Barba Skill 30 amplifier, great little amp, and he made a wet dry wet setup using the Skill 30, and it doesn't. Oh, maybe it does. I don't remember. But he is using the send out of the Skill 30 into Lely P split, and goes back to the return with one of the outputs of the Lely P split, and the second output into his audio interface. It was a cheap one he bought. I think it's cheaper than the Lele P split. Yeah, simple audio interface. And he used it together with the MacBook Air M1 base model, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, sorry. And he uses a program called Live Professor, the same I'm using, to handle the plugins. And he has been using plugins from Valhalla, reverb, and delays. Really good. It sounds wonderful. He's having it's a similar setup with me, with a 2x12 for the center dry, and two 1x12s for the time-based effects, the stereo effects. And that is a really simple and cheap setup. He's mostly playing for his own amusement in his studio, but so he hasn't set up a MIDI control like I have. He just does it on the computer, but you can easily make a MIDI setup of that. The benefit he has is that the audio interface has MIDI in and out, so he can use normal MIDI cables and don't have to have this extra conversion thing that I have to do. So he has only one connection to the computer. Perfect. My benefit is, of course, that the audio interface is powering my MacBook. Yeah, there are pros and cons. Anyway, but so it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. That's my point. And I will go through the Live Professor and show you soon. But the Michael Nielsen, Big Hairy Guitars, I think it's my favorite. His and Dan Huff's channels, I think, are my favorite channels on YouTube. And the Lexicon PCM 70 circular delay, that has been, after I discovered that, it has been, that is the delay I need. For years, I've been dependent on a delay that I can tap the tempo and keep it in time with the music so that it won't be too disturbing. When the first time I tried the PCM 70 was back at my friend's place, but where he has it, and it was, oh, that is so good. And then I figured out that I could do a circular delay somewhat similar in the Universal Audio Starlight, there's a preset that you can download, and you can get it to be quite similar. Then I figured out, okay, I can make the same preset both in my aux box and also, of course, in the Precision plugin and Universal Audio Precision plugin. So I've kind of been using that, and that is the reason I've gone. I want to use the audio interface, because although the Starlight sounds really good, there is this little extra thing that I can do with this, with the precision delay, the plugin, that just lifts it. It just sounds a little bit better. Especially the modulation part, I can, yeah, and of course having the Lexicon 224 plugin, that is so good. Really like that. Although the Golden, Universal Audio Golden, is really good as well. But that was the reason I started using plugins, but I have been trying to use plugins for many years. I was quite early at adapting digital gear, like combining computers and guitars. I've always wanted that. I was quite early on the pod, and I traveled in Europe playing different shows, only using the Pod Pro, or the old original Pod Pro. Had great tones. I really liked the pod. It's not maybe not the. I'm. Oh, sorry. I have to stick to what I'm talking about here. Forget that. But anyway, I've been trying plugins and combining audio interfaces with my live guitar rig many times, but it really has never been good enough. There has been too many issues. But now it's at a point where, wow, it's so much better. And also with the plugins you get now that really match the old rack gear. Of course, if I had if I was touring and had roadies and could afford it, I would of course bring a big refrigerator rack with all the goodies in. Not just because it sounds good, but just, it's so cool. It's so cool. But the plugins now are so good, and the hardware is so good. And of course, I've learned a few things, so I probably could have made this earlier with older stuff. Now that I see how I can do it without it getting problematic. But back to the thing. It's so running a wet dry wet rig using audio interface and a computer. It really doesn't have to be very expensive. You can get a really big sounding rig, great sounding, big sounding rig, for a lot less than you'd think, and with a lot less setup. Really, it's quite simple. Oh, I have to mention a couple of amps that I have noticed is really good for running wet dry wet things like this. I prefer when I can have a line out, like I've got on the Ecstasy. So there are a few Marshalls that I've noticed have a good line out for that. The Silver Jubilee, perfect for running wet, dry, wet. It's got a line out without any speaker emulation, and using the effects loop on the Silver Jubilee is, yeah, you can't do that in a wet, dry, wet unless you have three identical amps, because the tone stack of the Silver Jubilee is placed after the effects loop, or so the gain control of the amplifier is the send level. It's a weird thing. I think it was originally also on the older SLO, Soldano SLOs. But anyway, so it's got a good line out, so you can easily use it for wet, dry, wet setup. And also the newer JCM 900 Studio series of Marshall has a line out without speaker emulation. Some of the other amps there have a speaker emulation on the line out, so you kind of lose the opportunity for a wet, dry, wet thing there. But you could also, of course, run the send return thing like my friend did. The Shure PT15 has a line out where you can turn off the speaker simulation, so that works well. The SLO30 top has a line out, works very well when the wet, dry, wet. Yeah, so those are a few amps that I know work very well with wet, dry, wet setups like this. But of course, the SLO30 and the PT15 are expensive amps. Also the Ecstasy, but the Marshall stuff is quite affordable. It's not the cheapest, but it's quite affordable. But also, if you have an amplifier with a clean send return path serial, it works well. Yeah. Getting off track again. So yeah, other stuff that I will. Yeah, I was talking about the different setups that I use. So this is what I do when I run wet, dry, wet, and I've got. I mentioned the plugins thing, and I started talking about Michael Nielsen on Big Hairy Guitars. He's got. He just released this IR pack of some of the rack gear he's got. You know, reverbs and delays, and he released in that pack is the presets of the PCM 70. Of course, as he mentions, also the modulation and pitch thing doesn't work in an IR as an IR, but the reverbs and delays, at least those without modulation, work perfectly. And the circular delay IR is just so good, and it's just so much better than the what I've done with this Universal Audio stuff, and also what I've done with the Boss GD500, which is the best delay pedal on the market, by the way. I've talked about that before. But it does the circular delay, but it can't do the diffusion thing that the Lexicon thing does. Lexicon does. And that brings me to the other stuff here, because so then I downloaded for free And that there are so much good free plugins that sound good that you can use. But Waves, isn't that what they called? Waves. Yeah, I think it's Waves. They have a free pack of plugins, um, and included in that is an IR loader. Because I used to, I when I started doing this, I used MainStage, Apple's MainStage, which is can handle the plugins and is for live use, probably mostly for keyboards. But they've got this guitar setup. But the thing is that you can design your own UI, so you can get rid of all the stuff that you don't need. So I made this wonderful screen with sliders for level controls of different effects, buttons to turn them on off, and tap tempo button, everything. So it was really nice. And then uh, so I could use all that, and it's got an built-in IR loader, so you could use the IRs with that. Uh, all the effects of the Logic that are included in Logic and GarageBand are available in MainStage. So and I'm using Logic, so most my plugins are, if I've got it in Logic, I don't need to buy it. Uh, but the problem was I couldn't get the MIDI to be stable. If it's the computer or the uh, controller I've got that gives me the problems, I don't know, but I couldn't get it to be stable. So um, I had to try something else. So I tried the Live Professor, which is another plugin handler. And I can't design the UI like I can with MainStage. And of course, I lose access to all the plugins that are locked to Logic and Apple's ecosystem. Some of the Apple plugins are still available, but not all of them. It's not, yeah. So I lose some effects. So there are some things I haven't found a replacement for yet. But anyway, um, so yeah, I got so I got a hold of the Live Professor application, and I recreated everything in Live Professor that I did in MainStage, apart from the plugins that I can't get that are locked to Logic and the Apple ecosystem. But I've got MIDI to be stable, and that is a key to get it to work in a live setting. Um, but now so as I said, Waves have this free plugin pack with an IR loader. It can't do as long IRs as I could with the Logic thing. You could buy a plugin from Waves that can do longer IRs. But this is for free at least, and it's long enough to give me the two most important IRs from Michael Nielsen's IR pack, and that is the circular delay and the rich plate, which I use kind of for my bass reverb or default reverb. So I get all these wonderful effects really cheap. So now, whew, now I will take you into Live Professor, so you can see how that works. And oh, by the way, go buy Michael Nielsen's IR pack. It's really good. And I've also, by the way, I've ordered the Hotone Verbera, or yeah, which can load IRs, as I understood. In mono, you can load 20-second IRs, and in stereo, you can load 10 seconds IRs. So that will, you will, yeah, you don't need all that time mostly. But I will take you into Live Professor. So I will start that. I will change the camera here, and let's see. So yeah, I'm here. I will be looking at the little screen here instead. And I will start a screen recording. I haven't tested this with while playing, so I don't know if it will be some problems with the sound. But we'll see how this works out. And yeah. But now we are in Live Professor. And this is my setup here. I've got these, if I go to chains here, these are the different signal chains I've added. This one called swells is not really swells. This is just an audition chain for me. But I got a modulation chain. I got a circular delay chain, Lexicon 224, which is now the actually PCM70 rich plate, and a filter delay that I currently don't have a filter for. But those are the chains. And if I go to the wire view, the chains are here, that side, or this is actually not a chain. Is that why I should move those? You can move them. I'll just offset them a little bit. So this is the input of my audio interface. I'm using input 2 here. And I've put a wire to all the inputs of the signal chains. And in this signal chain, I put, let me see here. This is the rich plate IR from Michael Nielsen, the PCM70. I use the output here as the mix control for the effect. This here is the circular delay. Sorry, the precision delay from Universal Audio. I use this for the base for my filter delay. And when I find filters, the filter that I need, I will use that, put that in the chain with together with the delay. And here is my circular delay IR, or the Michael Nielsen's circular delay. Again, using the output for mix control, because there is no dry signal going through here at all. So you see the mix is set to 100% wet. And here I have, this is my modulation chain. So I start with 1176 compressor. I haven't really looked very much at the settings here. It just worked when I put up that, so it does a thing. And then I have the D-Tronics Tri-Stereo Chorus. This is a UAD plugin which require Apollo hardware, so it won't run on a different audio interface than Apollo. And then I've got the Dimension D or Studio D Chorus. This is a UADX plugin, so this will run on other audio interfaces. And then I use MIDI to turn on and off the different chains. Now here, by the way, this chain is what I use as an audition chain. At the moment, I've got an IR of the PCM70 long haul for trying for swells. I should probably have an IR loader that can do longer IRs. But the thing about having this audio path here is this is my setup, this is what I use, and if I want to make changes, instead of risking breaking what I've already got going, I can use this just to try out different plugins, see if this is something I want to use, and yeah, so it's a good way to have to be able to check things out without risking destroying what I've already made. So I'll show you a little bit. I'll just do this with clean sound. Clean, yeah. So this is the rich plate only. Just a beautiful sounding reverb. And I'll turn it off, and you can see on the screen that it's turned off. And then I will have turn on the circular delay. And you can hear how the attack and the whole delay is diffused, more like a reverb than a delay. If I change to the filter delay without filter, you can hear the attack of the precision delay. And that just does so that makes the delay not interfere so much with your playing. So it gets more like a more like a reverb. Sorry, that was. Yeah. The screensaver. so that is the beauty of the circle delay. You can just keep it on, and it. So you don't have to use a reverb. Or I often use a reverb anyway, but sometimes it can just make the sound. Yeah, it's not always good to have a reverb on, but the delay could almost always stay on unless you're playing some really funky things. And that is. Yeah, that is the Live Professor thing. It's really cool, simple to use, and the latency. That is one of the things that I forgot to mention. It is so more efficient than Mainstage that I have been using. If With Mainstage, I would constantly get warnings about the system not being able to process everything because I've got IRs, but I've got all the plugins running at the same time, even though they are not in the audio path, just to make switches easy and seamless and get the trails of all the effects and stuff like that. So I've got all plugins running all the time. And in Mainstage, I would get, always some warning about that. Yeah, I wouldn't notice it in the sound, but I would get those warnings. So if I did made some changes, and suddenly, new warning. Here, I never get a warning. It's so little latency. And what I can do if I want to run stereo and still use this, I can use the send of the amp into the input of the guitar. And I can, now I've just set up 2 outputs, but I could set up extra outputs and just run a line from the input and to that output, and have a dry path that, of course, it's been digitized. It's going through the conversion, but it will stay aligned with the rest of the setup. So I could still get, especially with Live Professor, you probably won't notice that you actually digitized it. And I'm running here, as you see, 96K, 64 is it samples? I'm not sure what it says. Running without any issues. I could probably turn it down to 32 samples as well. I don't know how to NVIDIA options. Yeah, I could probably turn it down to 32 as well. Live Professor is really good. So you can easily use Live Professor for your and run use your computer for your live rig. One of the upsides of this, of course, is that I don't need to make a bigger board. I can manage with my Classic 3 and I have everything I need. But of course, the downside is that you need to bring a computer and the audio interface. Um, but that can be stowed back with the amplifier. You know, of course, if I close the lid, I haven't actually tried that. If I close the lid, I think it will stop running the effects. I have to figure that out. Can probably override that. But when the screen goes to screensaver and the screen after a while will lock and turn off, everything is still working via MIDI. So you don't have to watch the computer. So that's good. You can keep it in the back of the stage. You don't need it up front with your pedal board. And I will turn off the screen recording of the. And I will change back to this camera. So you can use it in mono. You could use it in stereo or wet dry wet. This is mainly for me for wet dry wet. I will come back to the mono thing I talked about earlier, but I have ordered the Verbera, Hotone Verbera, because of with that I get the opportunity to have the proper circular delay on a pedal board, and I don't really, the main reason why I started using the audio interface was to get the better circular delay, and also the really good tri-stereo chorus that is in the Ditronic plugin. When it comes to reverbs, I really like the Lexicon stuff, but I'm not as picky about the reverbs as I am about the delays. I really love the rich plate, but I can get what I need from both the Delverb and the Golden Reverberator from Universal Audio. So it's not that important. When it comes to the swell effect, where I use the reverb, as I showed earlier, I actually prefer that in mono and just adding the stereo image with the delays or modulation that I've got going in stereo. So I put that in mono on my board, and when I have the circular delay on, as I always do, and I have the rich plate on. When I then use the swell in mono, as it is in the effects loop of the amp, it will also be added to the line out. So it will go into the stereo and it will get the stereo spread. But it kind of takes over the dry signal of the guitar and becomes more synth-like. And I like that. When I use effect only in the stereo image and use it for swells, I feel like as soon as I get off the guitar volume when I go back to swell in again, if you understand what I mean. It loses that spine. It just it doesn't take up the same space anymore. So I like to have that mono so that all the speakers are playing that reverb. When it comes to tremolo, I also prefer that in mono or in a wet dry setup. I like it in a wet dry setup, not wet dry wet, but wet dry. But I have the tremolo after the del verb and all the other time based thing in mono, so I can get that classic tremolo in an amp thing where everything is affected by the tremolo. So I prefer to do that in mono. What I showed earlier was just the tremolo on the dry signal, and then you have the stereo effects. But that's what I normally use the tremolo for after the delay, mono delay, and reverb. Other things. Yeah, I was talking about the reverbera. So as I can get the circular delay in a pedal now, proper pedal, I am going to build another board for myself with the golden to take care of the basic reverb, with the Verbera for the circular delay, and I'm using the Boss DD500 again for the filter delay stuff. So I will go back to be using a pedal board for the wet dry wet thing because I will get what I need on that pedal board now. It won't feel like a compromise. I will probably get another Verbera to get the rich plate as well at the same time, but I'll first try out this. Because of course it is easier to set up a pedal board than to set up the computer stuff. I will still set up the pedal board the same way I would set up the computer, the same connection, and I will still control it via the G3 switcher. So it will be staying back on top of the amplifier or something like that, and just control it via MIDI. But it will be just a simpler setup because it's what I need. But the thing is, it is so cool all the things that you can do with your computer in a wet, dry, wet or stereo setup. But especially in a wet, dry, wet where you don't have to worry about latency and stuff like that. You don't need an expensive audio interface. This is a very long video, and I'm so amazed if you have actually watched this to the end. And I don't think it's really ending soon. No, yet. I think I have gone through what I wanted to go through. It's been a mess. I only had one cup of coffee. But I really love these things, gear stuff, and I just love to talk about it. And as I said, I mostly use that small setup with one head, 1x12, and that small pedal board. That's what I mostly do. Here at home, I always play through this big thing. Because I just want to have fun, have a good time, and enjoy the great tones. At home, I would never. I've tried to use those small play at home things or play through the plugins and using the computer and stuff like that. But I can manage doing a live show with. I've done a live show with my iPhone and this Line 6 Sonic port. I've done live shows with that and just using the over loud, is it THU or something? TUH? I don't remember. Amp sim and plugin thing. I've done live shows with that. It sounds good, and I can get a good good enough tone depending on the setting. But when I'm at home, I will always prefer doing this. Of course, I will prefer using this live as well, but it depends on the place. It depends on the venue. If you're even allowed to have amp playing on stage, I can at church where I play a lot. There I can use whatever I want. That is great. We are so lucky to have so good sound engineers in our church and really good equipment as well. So most of the time I get my what I told the little mono rig because it's easy to get in the car and get in and out. But sometimes I run wet dry wet, or I run stereo with two by 12s. Yeah, I do a lot of those things. So it depends. But I always have the same core tone, always have the same effects available mostly. This is so fun. I love this. And I love just having fun with the guitars and the tones. And yeah, I hope you do too. But anyway, if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to comment. I know it's possible to make better videos than this, and I've got something I'm working on. But I have a habit of making every project so big in my head, and I'm now never able to achieve it. So it kind of stops me in my tracks. But I'm working on something, and hopefully I will be able to make it. And yeah, there was a lot of talking today. Yeah, I will try to end this. But please like and subscribe if you like it, and please subscribe. And where it's the 18th today, so it's almost Christmas. Here in Norway, we celebrate Christmas at the 24th in the evening. I guess in England and in the States, you celebrate on the morning of 25th or something. I don't understand all those things, or no. But anyway, Merry Christmas to all of you, and I hope that you will have a great holiday. Yeah. God bless you all, and hopefully I will be back very soon. At least I hope so. Goodbye.